Welcome back to the LTU Sports Report. I'm Caprice Johnson here with Ella Hopper, bringing to you a full recap of the latest action in LTU sports from this past week.
We have a light week next week, so stick around for a preview of the upcoming matchups and what LTU teams you should keep your eye on.
Thursday evening, LTU men's basketball team traveled to Sylvania, Ohio to take on Lourdes University in the quarterfinals of the WAC tournament. The Blue Devils came out with a strong energy, taking a 33-31 lead into halftime. Ramon Zappater led the offense effort in the first half with 13 points, while Luka Uzeliak provided key support, adding 10 points and helping LTU maintain an early advantage. In the second half, however, momentum began to shift. The Blue Devils struggled to find their offensive rhythm, while Lourdes was able to capitalize and extend their lead. Despite continued effort from LTU's key contributors, the Blue Devils were unable to close the gap. Zappater finished the night with a team high of 15 points and 8 rebounds, while Uzeliak and David Walker added 12 points. Ultimately, the Blue Devils fell short to Lourdes with a final score of 70-60, bringing their season to a close.
The Lawrence Tech men's lacrosse team faced a challenging road test in Marietta, Georgia, falling 15-8 to Life University after a decisive 7-goal surge by the Eagles in the second period. Despite a competitive 2-2 tie after the first frame, sparked by a Trevor Donahue goal, Life seized control with a 7-2 run that flipped the momentum for good. The Blue Devils showed flashes of resilience, including goals from Brendan Chenevier and Parker Gannon, but they went into the locker room trailing 9-4. While LTU managed to outscore Life 2-1 in the final quarter, featuring a man-up strike from Luke Gannon, but the deficit was too large to overcome a high-possession opponent. Luke Gannon led the LTU offense with a standout 4-point night, while Parker Gannon and Trevor Donahue combined for 3 additional goals to keep the Blue Devils competitive through the game.
Lawrence Tech baseball was back in action Friday as the Blue Devils faced Trinity Christian College in a series matchup. Starting in Game 1, Lawrence Tech put up a strong fight but ultimately fell short, losing 7-4. Trinity Christian got off to a fast start, scoring 3 runs in the first inning and putting early pressure on the Blue Devils. Lawrence Tech answered in the second inning when Luke Weinberger delivered a clutch 2 RBI to cut the deficit and shift the energy back in Lawrence Tech's favor. The Blue Devils continued to compete throughout the game, with Isaiah Logan and Gavin Martinkowski each adding RBIs to keep Lawrence Tech within striking distance. Weinberger led the offense with an impressive 3 hits and 2 RBIs, while Rex Dingman made an impact on the bases, scoring 2 runs for the Blue Devils.
In Game 2, Lawrence Tech fell 4-2 after a late-game surge by the Trolls. The Blue Devils initially took control when Evan McIntyre plated a pair of runs in the 4th inning with a single, giving the Blue Devils the lead. Starting pitcher Kenny Wright was dominant early, tossing 4 scoreless innings and only giving up 4 hits to the Troll batters. However, momentum shifted in the final innings. Trinity Christian cut the lead within 1 in the 5th before breaking the game open with a 2-run double in the 6th. An ensuing defensive error allowed an unearned run, pushing the margin 4-2. Despite totaling 8 hits and 4 stolen bases, led by 2 hit performances from McIntyre and Weinberger, Lawrence Tech left 8 runners stranded and was unable to mount a comeback against the Trolls' bullpen.
In Game 3 of the series, Lawrence Tech bounced back with a strong performance, defeating Trinity Christian by a final score of 3-2. The Blue Devils came out strong early, scoring 2 runs in the first inning after Gavin Martinkowski drove in a run and Evan McIntyre added another RBI to give LTU the early lead. Trinity Christian responded with runs in the 2nd and the 3rd inning to tie the game. But Lawrence Tech regained the lead in the 5th when Justin Barron delivered a sacrifice fly to bring home the go-ahead run. On the mound, Jacob Hedden earned the win while Nick McCormick closed the game and secured the victory for the Blue Devils.
The Blue Devil men's volleyball team faced a challenging away match in Mishawaka, falling straight sets to Bethel University. While the Pilots' offense was aggressive with a .462 hitting percentage, Lawrence Tech saw a highly efficient performance from freshman Yegor Volkov, who racked up 9 kills on just 16 swings. Setter Pedro Aguirre stayed busy with 25 assists, but the Blue Devils couldn't quite close the gap in the late stages of each set.
Lawrence Tech men's lacrosse played their 2nd game of the week on Saturday as the Blue Devils faced Reinhardt University. Lawrence Tech got off to a strong start with Wyatt Salabine scoring early to give the Blue Devils their first lead of the game. Eli Gerhardt added another goal in the opening quarter, keeping LTU within 1. Reinhardt, however, answered with a strong offensive surge throughout the second and third quarters to take control of the matchup. Lawrence Tech continued to battle as Parker Gannon, Mason Christie, and Trevor Donahue each found the back of the net later in the game. Despite the effort, the Blue Devils fell to Reinhardt with the final score of 11-5. Goalkeeper Dylan Porter put together a solid performance in the net, recording 14 saves.
Men's volleyball turned things around in a major way on Saturday afternoon, delivering a 3-set sweep against Goshen. Lawrence Tech was unstoppable at the net, posting a massive .500 hitting percentage as a team, led by Gustavo Machado's 11 kills and Mario Cid's near-perfect performance. The Blue Devils' defense was just as dominant, racking up 11 total blocks to keep the Maple Leafs from ever finding a rhythm in the 25-12, 25-12, and 25-18 victories.
Lawrence Tech men's and women's tennis were both in action as the Blue Devils took on Ashland University, completing across a full slate of singles and doubles matches. On the women's side, the Blue Devils battled in a tightly contested matchup, but ultimately fell just short of Ashland, edging Lawrence Tech by a final score of 4-3. Despite the narrow loss, several Blue Devils delivered standout performances in single plays. Jacqueline Alasora, Isabella Array, and Paola Herrera Rivera each earned impressive victories on the court. The men's team, however, turned the tide in Lawrence Tech's favor, securing a strong 4-3 win over the Eagles. The Blue Devils built their victory through a key doubles win and continued their dominance in singles competition. Leading the way for Lawrence Tech was Augustine Pate, Takua King, and Kale Guthrin, who each delivered singles victories to help seal the team's overall win.
The women's lacrosse team put together an incredibly complete performance in Kentucky, overwhelming Georgetown College in a 19-5 victory. The Blue Devils' offense was relentless from the opening whistle, outshooting the Tigers 42-14. Bella Lewis anchored the scoring with a massive 6-point night, including 5 goals on just 6 shots. She was well supported by Mari Pellman and Allison Wallenzak, who each chipped in 4 goals of their own to keep the pressure on. On the defensive end, Madison Gugala stood tall with 7 saves, while the team's aggressive checking forced 23 Georgetown turnovers. It was a dominant display of teamwork and execution.
Looking ahead to this upcoming week, Lawrence Tech Athletics has a full schedule with several teams competing both at home and across the country.
Women's lacrosse gets things started tonight as they travel to Grand Rapids to face Aquinas College. Then on Wednesday the 4th, they return home to take on Kalamazoo College here in Southfield at the Blue Devils Stadium.
Track and field will be competing on the national stage as both the men's and women's team head to Gainesville, Florida for the NAIA Indoor National Championship beginning on Thursday, with competition continuing through the weekend.
Baseball will also be heading to Florida starting Thursday for the Russ Matt Tournament, where the Blue Devils would take on Northwestern College, Daytona State College, and Mayville State University in a series of matchups throughout this week, and will continue to play against other teams during this tournament going into the following week. Softball will be on their spring break trip in Vera West, Florida, facing Marian University, Kaiser University, and Trinity Christian College and Wilmington College as they continue their early season schedule.
On Sunday, both the men's and women's tennis teams will compete in Hilton Head, South Carolina, as they take on Georgetown College as part of their spring break trip and the Spring Tennis Fest. That same day, women's lacrosse will be back in action and traveling to Florida to face Ave Maria University.
With national championship appearances and kickoff to spring break competitions across multiple states, it's set to be an exciting and sunny week for Blue Devil Athletics.
Be sure to follow LTU Athletics for live stats and updates, and stay tuned as we bring you all the highlights right here on the LTU Sports Report. My name is Caprice Johnson here with Ella Hoppert. Thank you for tuning in.